Well, it has been a busy week in the news, and we want to address a few of the stories on your mind with a little straight talk and common sense. It's time for a segment we call Facts of the Matter. Well, this week on MikeHuckabee.com, my website where you can look at the newsletter I do every day, I looked at the latest blast in the liberals' war on religion, and this time it's aimed at Vice President Mike Pence's wife, Karen Pence. Her unconscionable thought crime? Volunteering as an art teacher at a Christian school. That's right, LGBTQ activists have branded the school homophobic because students are asked not to participate in, support, or condone sexual immorality, homosexual activity, or bisexual activity. Now, this follows the recent pattern of liberals trying to redefine traditional religious beliefs as hatred and discrimination in order to justify the government targeting and eventually even outlawing those views. Huffington Post, the Human Rights Campaign, and other reliable mouthpieces of anti-religious bigotry accused Mrs. Pence of engaging in anti-gay discrimination while holding federal office. Little problem with that. The Second Lady is a title. It is not an official government position. She can volunteer at any school she wants, just as any religious school can set moral standards for admission. Note that the school policy doesn't ban students for being gay. It expects them not to engage in sexual activities of any kind that are considered sinful in their faith, particularly during art class. I think we could get that. Now, the mainstream media played along in the religious bigotry against Karen Pence. CNN White House reporter Kate Bennett drew some horse laughs with this indignant tweet on the subject. I quote, "So let me get this straight. The Second Lady of the United States has chosen to work at a school that openly discriminates against LGBT adults and children," end quote. So let me get this straight. A top CNN reporter has never heard of a religious school before. That's what's weird. There is some serious news research for you, and I hope that you'll recognize what Karen Pence is doing is what she has every right to do. Also, media liberals never seem to aim snarky criticism at Islamic schools, and they take a far harsher view of homosexuality. That's kind of strange, isn't it? So, does Mrs. Pence agree with the Bible on the subject of sin? Since she's a Christian, I guess the answer would be yes. Now, ask if I agree with the ridiculous notion that condemning sin is the same thing as condemning sinners. Anyone should know the answer to that, but if they just took a little time out from reading the Huffington Post and Twitter, and they would actually read the Bible, they might know these things. All right. Now, let's turn to a couple of questions and thoughts that you had on news stories this week. This one is from Sheila in Nebraska, and she writes that a federal judge ruled that embattled Colorado cake artist Jack Phillips could sue the state for anti-religious bias. The Colorado Civil Rights Commission has constantly harassed him for refusing to create a cake for a same-sex wedding, even though he's declined to create cakes with messages that demean LGBT people, as well as declining to do cakes for those that violate his faith in any way. Now, does this ruling finally mean an end to the CCRC's targeted harassment of him? Sheila, I wish I could say it does, but it doesn't, because we're dealing with people on the far left who aren't interested in a rational or common sense point of view. They want to put out of business anyone who disagrees with them. See, I believe that people who disagree with me are free to make their point, because I feel like that my point can be made. We both can make our points in the marketplace, and we'll let people decide. But if a person has a point of view that they themselves deep down in their hearts know is indefensible, it's not that they want to present their point, they want to destroy the point of view of anyone else because they're that uncertain about their own point of view and feel the only way it can stand if it is unchallenged. That's pretty scary, and it's unfortunate. All right, we get this from Tom. He's in Minnesota. He's concerned that one of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's top legislative priorities is the Equality Act, and he says, I truly fear it. He goes on to say that I believe it will politicize the medical treatment of gender dysphoria and could lead to more prosecutions against parents who refuse to aid in the sterilization of their children. Here's his question. Will this legislation call traditional parents to face charges of child abuse and lose custody of their children. Do we want the government ends the sex selection and child-rearing business? Of course we don't. And the truth is, if Nancy Pelosi had all the power that she wanted and could get it through the House, it would still have to go to the Senate, and there aren't the votes there for it, thank goodness. This is why it's so important to make sure there's some balance. And then the good news is, I'm confident this president would never sign something so ridiculous. But let it be a reminder to you, if both houses of Congress and the White House should be in the hands of those who think like Nancy Pelosi, then yes, it could happen. And that's something we should all be afraid of. Finally, Sully in Ohio had 2020 on his mind when he commented, Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii recently called out colleagues Kamala Harris, Mazie Hirono, for fomenting religious bigotry against a Nebraska judicial nominee, Brian Boucher, because he's Catholic and he belongs to the Knights of Columbus. So what's your take on her action, and will it affect her announced presidential bid in 2020 with fellow Democrats? I applaud Ms. Gabbard for having the courage to say that we shouldn't be discriminating against someone for a federal judge appointment because they're faithful Catholics and happen to belong to the oldest of the Catholic benevolent organizations, in this case, the Knights of Columbus. Now, I'm an evangelical, but I have marched shoulder to shoulder with Knights of Columbus at March for Life year after year after year. I'm not the least bit afraid of them because they believe, as I do, that we need to stand for life and good things, and they provide millions of dollars in benevolence and assistance to poor people. So I don't know why they're so dangerous to some people like Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris and Mazie Hirono are far more dangerous to our great republic than the Knights of Columbus and any Catholic judge would ever be. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on the issues of our nation and world. Just drop me a line at my2cents@tbn.tv. And hopefully, we're going to find out what's on your mind. Now, until then, that's it for Facts of the Matter.